It can be really hard to work somewhere where you don't feel like you're allowed to disagree. But it's important to understand how to disagree properly and how to give your team space to disagree with you. So I'm going to talk a little bit in this video about how to disagree, how to just say no, because sometimes that's necessary. The first thing to keep in mind is that it's going to look different. It's going to look different for the different people you're talking to, whether it's your employees, the people who work for you, team members that you work with or alongside, your peers, I guess, or your leadership, somebody like your CEO, CFO, or COO who you're answering to, the general manager maybe, that you're having to actually talk to, who can maybe even fire you. These people have to be, you have to communicate with them when you disagree, but you have to handle them each a little bit differently. And as managers who work in the middle chair, right, we don't necessarily work above everybody. We're not the entrepreneur who started the business where we can be like, this is how it's going to be. But we also aren't the people who just have to go by how everybody else says. We can have a little bit of input in these things. So when somebody approaches you with something you don't agree with, how do you manage that? How do you handle that? Well, let's start by talking about our employees. Three main things: listen, repeat, and learn, or redirect sometimes. So that's where we're going to kind of split off, but we'll get there in a second. First of all is obviously to listen. And when I say listen, I don't mean and my door is open and then they come in, they blah, 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 and you say thank you, and they walk out. That's not what I mean. I mean actively listening to them. You're going to actively listen to them by leaning in to that conversation, right? You're going to actively listen to them by being open to the things that they're saying all the way up until they're finished having the conversation. None of this, I'm going to stop you right there, or no, I don't know, or oh, really? In the middle of their conversation. No, let them explain where they're at, what they're talking about. Hear them out from beginning to end, and then repeat back to them. Obviously not word for word what they said, but let them know you understood what they were saying. A phrase I like is, okay, so if I understand this correctly, you're saying that whatever, right? Okay, if I understand this correctly, you're saying that this particular client who comes in causes these issues, and you think that we should create this particular procedure to help avoid those issues. Great. Here's why I don't like that idea, maybe. Or you could explain to them, or not even explain, but ask them, so is there a lot of people who cause this problem? Does this happen often? Not really. It's just this one person. They come in once a week and they have this issue. This is something that I hear quite a bit in my office, right? It's like, this is an issue that keeps happening with this person. What if we did this so that this kind of thing wouldn't happen anymore with people? And we're like, okay, first of all, it's not happening with people. It's happening with one guy, right? So if that's the case, maybe we don't approach this with a complete new change of policy or procedure, but instead we figure out how to handle this person. So, but asking questions is how you're going to get enough info to know if you need to agree or not. So that's number one, is listening and repeating, and then asking questions to help learn. And then maybe you have to redirect. So redirection can look like, okay, I understand this person's causing a problem. What if you go ahead and put on their next visit that I will have a conversation with them and try to figure out how we can help them better? Maybe that's the answer. Whatever the answer might be in that particular situation, the idea is redirecting them to a solution that may not be the one that they had, but you're still solving the problem that had them approach you with this thing you disagree with, right? So you may not agree with what they want to do about it, but that doesn't mean the problem doesn't need to be solved, right? So maybe that's what maybe they have an idea for some new marketing or something like that, and you don't want to spend the marketing budget on it. Instead of poo-pooing their idea immediately, it might be a back burner thing. We call it a parking lot. I'm going to put that in the parking lot. We don't know that we have a budget on it right now, but man, it sounds really cool. Let's go ahead and put it in the parking lot, and we'll see what we can do, right? Just an idea that you just don't think you can do right now. So it's important, though, to listen, repeat back what they're saying to you, and then try to learn. And if you have to, redirect. Sometimes you're going to listen, you're going to repeat back, and you've been disagreeing, and then you're going to ask a couple follow-up questions, and you're going to agree. You're going to realize they know what's going on. Please don't forget the fact that your employees are the ones working in the trenches, so to speak, with your clients or customers. They're dealing with the day-to-day every single day, where you're, if you're like me, in your office working on more big picture stuff. You're not seeing the day-to-day as much. And so it's important to give them space to explain that stuff when they have things that, even if you disagree. The second thing is with your team members, right? People who are peers in your group. We have a leadership team meeting once a week. Sometimes it's every other week it's marketing, and then the other weeks it is a just projects meeting and procedure kind of stuff. It's critical in those meetings that we have a space where you don't have to agree with everything everybody says. And we use this all the time. We listen, repeat, learn, and explain. Because this is a little different than you're working with an employee. You can't tell these other team members what to do necessarily, right? If I'm in there with a doctor, well, I'm a chiropractic office, so if I'm in there with a doctor who is in charge of care and my boss, and then the person who's in charge of all the nutrition, I'm not telling them what to do for these nutrition things, or for the doctor to do for the care they're giving people. All I can do is express why I don't necessarily agree with the step they're wanting to take. So the first three things are the same. Listen, repeat back what they said, learn about what they're saying so that you can have a full understanding of it, and then try to explain what it is about it that you don't agree with. And explaining and defending yourself are not the same thing. It's more of trying to help them see where your concerns are. Some of the kind of like if they were to ask questions the way you are after you've repeated back, what would the answers to those questions be? Are you knocking? I guess not. Next is how to disagree with leadership. So the last one's a little more simple, right? Just hash out the conversations. That's what those meetings are for, with the people who are peers with you. It's easier to have those conversations. In this situation with leadership, with your CEO or COO, CFO, you're going to have to do less explaining unless they are listening, repeating, and trying to learn. You have to listen, repeat, and learn. And sometimes learn means understand that this is not something that you're going to ever agree on. You just have to deal with it in whatever way you can deal with it, right? This is a great example. In our office recently, there was something that came up. It's a project that I spent some time on, and after spending a little bit of time on it, I realized this is not a project in which my time is well spent putting into this project. There's too many more important things I need to be working on. And it was important to my boss. But I explained to him, I don't see the benefit of this project for me to work on it. And he said, okay, I'll take it off your hands and put it on somebody else. We had a disagreement there, and I had to explain it to him. And I had to ask, what do you think we can get out of this that we're not getting out of other things already? What do you think? I had to ask these questions so that I could understand and learn. Because originally I was like, let's shut this down, right? I'm like, let's get rid of this. We don't need this. But after asking questions and learning, the tactic, so to speak, changed. And it was like, okay, I see that this is something you want to continue. Can we continue it with me not being the one in charge of it? And that's where that went. Because I listened, I repeated back, here's what I see. You want to continue this because this is what's important to you. And I learned that it's not something that's going to go away. I just need to be a support and not the heading that project up. And so that's what I do now. I support it when necessary, but I'm not in charge of it. I'm not in the meetings about it. I don't meet with the trainers about it. They're doing it. And when I'm needed to be brought in for one reason or another, for clarity on certain things, I'm brought in, and that's it. But that couldn't have happened if I had drawn a line in the sand, right? And that leads me to these pitfalls, these three main pitfalls. Number one is don't defend your point of view. You can defend yourself. You can defend you and you can defend your right to have a point of view. You can defend your time and your money or whatever you need to defend in that way. But your particular point of view about a specific instance, if somebody approaches you and you're disagreeing with what they're having, dying on a hill is not going to get you progress in this situation. So instead of defending that point of view, that's where you're asking questions, you're learning, you're understanding, and then you're communicating back and forth about it instead of drawing that line in the sand and saying, this is a hard line I will not cross. You're going to have to come to me because I'm not coming to you. Also, don't belittle others' POV, especially team members. If you belittle your boss's POV for a while, you're going to get fired. So that's obviously kind of a no-brainer. If you belittle your peers' POV, you're going to get basically blacklisted, right? You're not going to get invited to the important meetings anymore. Maybe that's what you want, but typically you want to be involved in the important decisions because they're going to affect you and your team. And then definitely, if you belittle your team, that could go under the radar for a long time. But what else is going under the radar is how much they hate you. If your team member walks in with something and you disagree with it, stopping them in their tracks, or that's dumb, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Those kinds of responses are just going to create turnaround in your business, and you're not going to be able to keep employees because people have to feel like they're listened to and that their point of view is valuable. Even if you have to redirect it to a different solution, you're not ignoring the problem that they're coming to you with. You're not ignoring the idea that they have. You might be reframing it or redirecting it, but you can't belittle what they have in mind. The last thing is misplaced complaints. I say this all the time. Complaints go up, they don't go down. If something's going on and you're struggling with it, and your team member is struggling and they're talking about it, your employees, you shouldn't be hashing those things out with your employees. I'm a social person. Three of my top 5 strengths are social, relationship. And so when people start going back and forth on things that irritate them, it is easy for me to want to jump right in there and just get on board. But when I'm talking to the people who work for me, that's something I have to do my best to step away from, because my complaints should go up, not down. And thankfully, I have a safe place where I can express my disagreements, and those disagreements can get addressed. And I hope you have that too where you work. But those are 3 main pitfalls. Dying on some hill, that's your point of view, belittling somebody else's point of view, and then complaining to the wrong people. It's not helpful, it's just harmful. So there's me right in the middle of the screen. You can go reach kmichaelprince.com. Coach at kmichaelprince.com is where you can learn about the coaching program, where we can dig into specifically your office, your clinic, what you've got going on in your space. Talk to your boss about, hey, I think I might benefit from this 90-day training program where I can learn a little bit about the nuts and bolts of dealing with this, especially something like a chiropractic clinic or a wellness clinic, but any office really, how to deal with the leadership side of it. We're going to have some tools, some strength finder assessment, things like that to help you do better at being a manager. So if you feel like you need training, management, you don't need a management degree, whatever, but this is going to be helpful, reach out, coach at kmichaelprince.com or kmichaelprince.com to book a preview call, free preview call where we'll just talk through what your options are. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you in the next video.